You guys really enjoyed my video I did last Saturday about some of the biggest events going on in college football and some of the hottest topics. I figured I'm going to go ahead and try to do this video once a week, so we're going to talk about this past week and some of the main topics that happened. We've got 8 different stories or storylines I want to cover, and before we get started with all that, if you're a big fan of college football, be sure to subscribe to the channel, leave a like if you want to support today's video, and let me know what player, team, topic, or situation I can cover next. Now let's get started and talk about college football going crazy, April 20th edition. Alright, so the first story I want to talk about is Bryce Underwood and Michigan. Obviously, the Maize and Blue game was yesterday, and Bryce Underwood, the true freshman that everybody is in love with, ended up having an interesting game. He decided to go 12 of 26 for 187 yards and had an 88-yard pass to end the game. He did have his growing pains, though. He did have his growing pains and showed equal promise, and head coach Sharon Moore said, quote, "He did well. He made some really good throws, but also had some things we need to clean up and get better at." In case you don't know, he'll be battling it out with Fresno State transfer Mikey Keene and former blue chip quarterback Jaden Davis for that starting job, but for all intents and purposes, it is Underwood's job to lose, and this could be the start of something special in Ann Arbor, and I'm excited to see what Underwood can do, and just thought I'd give a quick update on how he did in their spring game. Up next, I want to talk about a guy who entered the transfer portal, and I just did not see this one coming. That is Zack Pyron. Going back in time, Pyron was a 4-star recruit coming out of Pinson Valley, and sort of was seen as a prodigy-like player. He ended up putting up ridiculous numbers while he was in high school, and arrived at Georgia Tech. He ended up never being able to really crack the rotation, as in 3 years at Georgia Tech, he ended up completing 88 of 155 passes for 995 yards and 5 touchdowns, while also throwing 7 interceptions. He's also used as a situational running quarterback, and he had 271 yards and 6 touchdowns. He played in a total of 19 games, and the 6'3" quarterback decided to enter the portal after Haynes King announced he'd be coming back. Both fortunately and unfortunately, he got an opportunity in the portal as he would sign with Minnesota, who was trying to replace quarterback Max Brosmer, who they brought in from New Hampshire for a 1-year rental. Pyron, I guess, saw the writing on the wall pretty early on and has decided to enter the portal again and committed to South Alabama. He'll go back home and will probably get an opportunity to start in place of Gio Lopez, who just entered the portal and went to North Carolina. It is a game of cat and mouse in the transfer portal right now, and I thought it'd be cool to update you guys on what Zack Pyron is doing. Last week in this same series, we talked about how head coach Kenny Burns from Kent State got fired, and there was kind of some murky waters about it, and no one really knew what was going on. Well, 2 days ago, we got sort of an update here, as the Akron Beacon Journal said, quote, "Kent State football coach fired after receiving more than $100,000 in loans from a booster." If you go over to Reddit, there's some pretty interesting and funny comments, as one of the first comments says, quote, "The most shocking part of this is that Kent State has boosters." Honestly, I agree with this guy. Kent State is a complete dumpster fire of a program right now, and I'm not sure why anybody would even donate a penny to them. Things have gotten pretty bad there, as apparently there was an investigation into Kenny Burns, and he was doing 4 things. He was drinking on the job, he was gambling, and he was mistreating staff, and then ultimately he took over $100,000 from a semi-retired restaurateur who's both a Kent State vendor and a school booster. Kent State would release a 13-page memo, and he was just ultimately, quote, "engaging in highly questionable financial transactions." So yeah, I guess on paper, maybe Kenny Burns wasn't an innocent coach who got fired for no reason, but instead ended up doing some questionable things to go along with having the worst record of any head coach in college football right now. Again, I don't think Bill Belichick or Nick Saban could win at Kent State right now, but at some point, Kent State has to figure out how to hire a real football coach who can help turn things around in Ohio. If there's one school that's currently in a pretty dark spot, it is the Cal Golden Bears. Just 2 decades ago, Cal was one of the top programs in the Pac-12 and in college football, and all of a sudden, they have not been able to figure things out. Sure, they've made a couple of useless bowl games over the last few years, but for the most part, Cal has just not been able to figure anything out in terms of football. Things got even worse in the last couple of days, as in the span of 72 hours, they saw their entire running back depth chart enter the portal. You had Jaden Ott, who was a star for them over the last 3 years, decide to enter the portal and go to Oklahoma, and then behind him was Javion Thomas, who also entered the portal just hours later. No one has any idea what is going on, but the fact that 5 different running backs entered the portal means that it is beyond playing time or NIL. There's obviously something going on here, and it seems to have something to do with the coaching staff. They ended up losing running backs coach Aristotle Thompson, who recruited all 5 of these guys to Berkeley and was apparently beloved by them. They also brought a new offensive coordinator, Brian Harsin, and things are not going well. I guess Brian has his own methods of coaching that are somewhat difficult to deal with, and he sort of has a his way or the highway approach, according to WriteForCalifornia.com. Seems like players also weren't getting along with new running backs coach Julian Griffin, and combining that with a new system, Cal's lackluster results, and potentially them being behind in NIL, it seems like this is a complete mess for the Golden Bears, and that move to the ACC honestly doesn't look that great right now. They also lost their superstar quarterback Fernando Mendoza to Indiana this past offseason, and there have been many other players who've entered the portal for Cal over the last couple of weeks as well. So things are just kind of a disaster right now, and I would not want to be a Cal Golden Bears fan. And truly, I have no idea who's going to run the ball or line up in the backfield this upcoming fall for them. Up next, we have a sad story brewing as 40 different players have entered the transfer portal for Limestone University. I gotta be honest, I don't know a whole lot about this D2 school, but apparently they are facing some serious financial problems and could shut down the school, which would shut down classes and athletics and football. They announced this past Wednesday that they may move fully online or cease operations completely, as this would mean the elimination of their storied program. Their board of trustees said, quote, "Limestone University remains committed to our students, and we will work directly with current students to help them identify the best path to successfully complete their educational journey. We are reaching out separately to students with information regarding options to continue their education. Honestly, their men's program has been decent, as they've won 5 NCAA championships and was once again in contention this year. Their women's teams were also solid, and I think this piece of news epitomizes what's going on in college sports, as a lot of colleges in general are just not able to fund athletics, and I guess may not even be able to fund classes anymore. Times are difficult in America right now, and I guess Division II college football is not at the top of most people's priority list. In other news, we had an interesting quarterback commit as Gio Lopez decided to enter the spring window, and within a couple of days found his new home at North Carolina. This is very relevant because Bill Belichick is now the head coach there, and honestly, they didn't have a great quarterback option. You had Max Johnson, who was coming off of a horrible injury and was on his 6th year. You had Ryan Brown, who started 1 game for the worst Power 4 school in the country in Purdue, and then 2 true freshmen, who, to be fair, were highly regarded. I like both Torrey Newkirk and Bryce Baker, but to say they are ready to take over this year maybe was a bit of a stretch. Gio Lopez was a 3-star recruit coming out of high school, and while he put up decent numbers at James Clemens High School, he only got offers from small schools and went to South Alabama. He ended up becoming a backup his first season, but last year he was a dual threat option as he threw for 2,600 yards and 18 touchdowns and also ran for nearly 500 yards. Lopez is a bit undersized, and going from the Conference USA to the ACC will be a bit of a jump, but I think Bill Belichick found a good option to at least push these freshmen, if not start right away. And finally, things are coming together in Chapel Hill in terms of that quarterback room. Up next, we need to talk about the news that happened at College Game Day, as Lee Corso, the longtime analyst for College Game Day, has decided to retire. Believe it or not, he has spent 38 different years on the show and will make his final appearance week 1 of the 2025 college football season, which will take place on August 30th. He's also going to be turning 90 here soon, and everybody loves this guy. He's been doing College Game Day since 1987, and he was the longest reigning member, and at times people got super annoyed with him, and he acted a little bit ditzy, but he kind of made College Game Day what it was, added a different twist each and every week, and was known for all the headgear stuff. Unfortunately, he had health issues, is getting older, and people probably thought it was time to move on years ago, but Lee Corso will be missed on the College Game Day set, and I hate to say it, but College Game Day continues to get worse each and every year. I don't even watch it anymore, and Corso leaving is very sad news. Last but not least, we need to talk about the new rule coming to college football, as the NCAA is finally cracking down on fake injuries. This is very apparent at the end of games, as sometimes a player will mysteriously drop down on the grass and all of a sudden be in horrific pain after not even being touched. Usually they say it's a cramp or something, but that makes absolutely no sense. The NCAA is now going to penalize teams for using that tactic, and the rule is sort of as follows. If the team's medical staff enters the field to assess an injured player, they will either be charged a timeout, and if they don't have one, they will be given a 5-yard penalty for delaying the game. This is intended to discourage players from faking injuries, and I guess the only logical reason for laying down on the field and stalling time would be if your leg is actually broken or if your shoulder is out of place. No longer does a little cramp or a motion from a coach on the sideline end up meaning you can take a timeout and delay the game. Ole Miss and some other SEC teams are famous for doing this, and I guess that cheat code is no longer going to be an option this upcoming fall, and it might make the end of games a little bit more entertaining. So yeah, today we talked about 8 of the biggest topics going on in college football, but what do you guys think? What are your thoughts on these pieces of news? What should I include next week? And do you like this style of video? If you do, be sure to let me know your thoughts. Leave a like on the video and check out all of the videos on the end screen. Hope to see you guys again soon, but until next time, peace.